Hello, my dear students. We can discuss a new topic in our page number 102, the agenda for a national education. Here, agenda means a plan or a program for a national education. British officials were not the only people thinking about education in India. In the previous session, we discussed the plan of British people, the Wood's dispatch for related to Indian education. Here, what's our topic? Not the only people, the British people or the British officials were not the only people thinking about the education in India. From the early 19th century, many thinkers from different parts of India began to talk of the need for a wider spread of education. They impressed with the developments in Europe. Some Indians felt that Western education would help modernize in India. Some of these people of India, they thought that Western education help us to modernize, help the people of India to modernize. They urged, they influenced the British, they urged the British to open more schools, colleges and universities and spend more money on education. And this group of people urged the British to open newer education institutions. There were other Indians, however, who reacted against Western education. Mahatma Gandhi, Rabindranath Tagore, they were the two such individuals. So what we discussed now, there were two sections. A group of people in India, they supported the Western education, and other section, they opposing the Western education. Two group there. So let's look at what they had to see. Which one? Those who are opposing, those who were opposed the Western education in India. So there our subheading, English education has enslaved us. Has enslaved us means make us slaves. Make us slaves. Mahatma Gandhi argued that, or he opined that, the colonial education created a sense of inferiority in the minds of Indians. A sense of inferiority in the minds of Indians means the people of India, they thought that in the case of education, they were poor. It made them see Western civilization as superior and destroyed the pride they had in their own culture. So what happened? Gandhiji argued that Western education or English education create a sense of poor minding or an inferiority mind among the Indians. At the same time, they thought that Western civilization that was superior and destroyed the pride that had in their own culture. There was poison in this education. Which education? Western education. According to Mahatma Gandhi, there was poison in the Western education. Said Mahatma Gandhi, it was sinful, it enslaved Indians, it will make us slaves. It cast an evil spell on them. So what happened? It influenced the Indian people and gave an evil effect to the Indians. Charmed by the West, attracted by the West, appreciating everything that came from the West. So people, they began to start appreciating everything that came from the West. Indians educated in these institutions began admiring British rule. So Mahatma Gandhi thought that Indians educated in these Western schools or English schools, they began to admire British rule. Mahatma Gandhi wanted an education that would help Indians recover their sense of dignity and self-respect. So according to Mahatma Gandhi, what type of education required here? A particular education that create a sense of dignity and self-respect among the people of India. During the national movement, He urged the students to leave educational institutions to show that the British, that Indians were no longer willing to be enslaved. During the national movement, Mahatma Gandhi asked the students, "You must leave from the educational institutions owned by the British. And we want to show the British that we Indians, we were not ready to enslave, or the slave, we were not ready to become slaves of the British." Mahatma Gandhi strongly felt that Indian languages ought to be the medium of teaching. So, what was his opinion? In Indian schools, Indian language must be the medium of teaching. Education in English crippled Indians, distanced Indians from their own social surroundings, and made them strangers in their own lands. So, what was the opinion of Mahatma Gandhi? Which language was the medium of teaching? Indian language. And according to him, the education in English schools crippled Indians, distanced them from their own social surroundings, and made them strangers in their own lands. Speaking a foreign tongue, that means speaking a foreign language, despising local culture, the English educated did not know how to relate to the masses. So, according to him, English educated people, they did not know how to connect or how to work with the masses. Large masses means a lot of large people. Western education, Mahatma Gandhi said, focused on reading and writing rather than oral knowledge. According to Gandhiji, Western education focused on reading and writing than oral knowledge. It valued textbooks rather than lived experience and practical knowledge. You underline this. According to Gandhiji, the English education valued textbooks rather than lived experience and practical knowledge. He argued that education ought to develop a person's mind and soul. Gandhiji's opinion that education ought to develop a person's mind and soul. Literacy, or simply learning to read and write. Literacy means learning to read and write. By itself did not count as education. Gandhi told that a person learning to read and write did not count as education. People had to work with their hands, learn a craft, and know how different things operated. This would develop their mind and their capacity to understand. So, Gandhi told that people had to work with their hands, learn a craft, and know how different things operated. That to develop their capacity to understand. That is the opinion of Mahatma Gandhi. As nationalist sentiment spread, means as the love of one's own nation, we people of India, they began to love their own nation. These sentiments spread, this nationalist sentiments spread. Other thinkers also began thinking of a system of national education which would be radically different from that set up by the British. So, what happened? Among the minds of Indians, in nationalist feelings, nationalist sentiments spread. What happened? Some other thinkers also began to thinking about a national education, India's own education, that would be radically different from that, which one? The education that is set up by the British. And dear students, here we can conclude. Thank you.